That's Ceann Comhairle. I'd like to thank the Ceann Comhairle for taking a line of topical issue to be taken today.
There's obviously something.
Minister, the Seaview Respite Home outside Donegal town is owned and operated by the HSE to provide residential respite care for disabled and physically disabled and intellectually disabled people across southwest Donegal. Currently, there are over 100 families who use the service and access the service for much needed respite for them and for the person that they're caring for as well, which I think is vitally important. And it's important to stress that the families are very happy with the service that they get in the respite home and the care that their loved ones get when they are there, and that's not what the issue is here today. The issue is in relation to staffing. Now, previously, families used to receive respite care every 6 weeks, where their child or person that they were looking after could go in, stay overnight, and the family would get the break. And indeed, the facility was able to accommodate them as well if the family had to go away for a short period of time at short notice, or had to go was intended to go on holidays, because obviously, because of the facilities across the country, it's not possible to always take a disabled person on holidays with you. So the respite home was able to actually cater for those needs. And one of the families said to me in relation to this issue that the holiday for the disabled person was going to the respite home, and that was where they were getting their holiday. Now, unfortunately, we are now in a situation where the home closes at 7 o'clock on a Sunday evening and doesn't open Monday or Tuesday, which has resulted in that the families are lucky if they get respite care twice a year rather than every 6 weeks period that they had before. And as I understand it, the home requires 4 nurses plus care staff to be able to maintain the level of respite that had been there previously, where they could get respite every 6 weeks. Now, I understand there's a nurse due to retire in the next couple of weeks, and that the staffing complement will be down to 2 nurses in the home, which means that the availability of respite for the families that desperately need it, and that's the only break that most families actually get to get some overnight respite care through this home. And so those 100 families are going to be restricted even more if this situation is allowed to continue. So I think it's vitally important that the HSE in Donegal recruit the nurse and staff that are required to allow this home to operate to full capacity and to the benefit of all those families that depend on this very vital service.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle, and I want to thank Deputy Pringle for raising this important issue here today. And can I convey Minister Harris's apologies that he's unavoidably absent and would like to have been here himself. The Government is committed to providing services and supports for people with disabilities, which will empower them to live independent lives, providing them with greater independence in accessing the services they choose, and enhance their ability to tailor the supports required to meet their needs and to plan their lives. I am acutely aware, and the Government is acutely aware, of the changing needs of people with disabilities, and understand that many people require additional or alternative services. The provision of respite services has come under increased pressure in the past number of years, and I know it will be no surprise to you, Deputy Pringle. There is an increase in the number of children and adults seeking access to respite, and there is also increased levels of changing needs due to the increase in the age of people with a disability. The way in which residential respite services is provided has also changed as agencies comply with HICWA standards and the National Policy on Congregated Settings. In some situations, this means that beds are no longer available. For example, vacated beds for residents who go home at weekends or for holidays can no longer be used for respite. Seaview Respite House, which is located in Mount Charles, Donegal town, as you're so well aware, was established in 2002, and it provides respite for the children, as you've referred to, from age 6 upwards, and adults with an intellectual disability or autism on a rotational basis. And 100 families in the southwest Donegal catchment area are availing of this. The maximum occupancy provides for 5 children or 5 adults. This valuable facility provides for a much-deserved break for families and persons with an intellectual disability and/or autism, and I know you're fully aware of this. A recent service user satisfaction survey was completed in 2016, which provided very positive feedback regarding the staff and quality of service provided. Respite Service provides a range of services, including overnight respite, day respite and a drop-in service, and I know that positive feedback is something that we're all very happy to hear about. The service operates a person-centred model of care and is delivered by a combination of nursing and support staff. The service normally operates on a part-time basis Wednesday through to Sunday evening, as you referred to already, and the allocation for the unit is, in terms of whole-time equivalents, 1 whole-time equivalent clinical nurse manager, 3.6 whole-time equivalent nursing staff and 4.67 whole-time equivalent care assistants. And I'm advised by the HSE that for a number of reasons, including staff transfers and retirements that you referred to yourself, the service is currently experiencing a temporary staff shortage. However, I am pleased to confirm that the HSE have advised me that 3 posts for the unit are currently being recruited via the National Recruitment Service, and this will ensure that the service resumes to full capacity. The need for increased respite in residential facilities is acknowledged, and the HSE is continuing to work with agencies to explore various ways of responding to this need in line with the budgets available, and I hope Deputy Pringle, that the information that 3 posts are currently being recruited will be good news for you.
Deputy Pringle, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Minister. Unfortunately, your response reads reasonably well until you turn the page and you see that you state that the service normally operates on a part-time basis Wednesday through to Sunday evening. That wasn't the normal operation of the service. The normal operation of the service was a 7-day service. So when you talk about that the service resumes to full capacity, what are you actually talking about there in relation to it? Is full capacity resuming to a Wednesday through Sunday, or is full capacity resuming to a 7-day service? Because that is what is the key issue here in relation to what was a 7-day service is now operating Wednesday through to Sunday evening, and that's even been put at risk because of the staff shortages there at the moment. So a full resumption of full service is resumption of a 7-day service, not of a part-time service. And I would urge the Minister to actually clarify that urgently, because I think that is the key issue here in relation to the situation for the Seaview Respite Centre. A full service, a 7-day service, and will the staff recruitment mean that the 7-day service will be restored?
Thank you very much, Deputy. Well, Deputy, as you know, I've outlined that they are recruiting the posts that are vacant. Now, my assumption on that would be that they will be replacing the staff vacancies and that the service would resume to what it was. But I will get due confirmation of that from the HSE. It is obviously something that we would be very concerned that would actually be the case, that if it was a full-time service 7 days a week, then that is what will be restored when the full staff complement returns. So I will get you confirmation of that from the HSE, Deputy Pringle.
Next.